So, welcome to the Vivo Ed Chat. My name's Colin Brown, Director of Engagement at Vivo, and I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by Nishy Lall, who's the SkySkillsStudios Manager at British Sky Broadcasting. So, good afternoon, Nishy.
Good afternoon, Colin, and good afternoon to everybody out there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us. So, obviously, we're going to talk about Sky Skill Studios, but before we do that, let's just find out a little bit about yourself. So, how long have you been at Sky? What's your kind of role there? That sort of stuff.
Okay, so I've been at Sky quite a long time, actually just over 15 years, and I came into Sky at a very junior level as an accounts payable clerk. This was in just shortly after Sky Digital launch, so the company wasn't as big as it is today, and I have seen it kind of change over the years and become kind of what it is today. As a business. Over the years, I had the opportunity to move within, and shortly after a sort of 18-month stint in accounts, I moved into broadcast operations, which looked after the business areas in terms of behind the scenes of programming, so your studios, editing and audio, and I looked after all the freelancers and non-permanent staff in terms of getting them scheduled in and paid. Then kind of moved into a PA's role for the head of operations, and progressed through that role as an admin's manager, and then took on various projects within that department. One being Project Green Sky, which worked with secondary schools to raise their awareness around the environment. And it was a great, really good, interesting way of kind of getting young people involved in a very, very important topic. And that kind of really led me into the role that I have today as the SkySkillsStudios Studios manager, which is another great learning experience for young people, a very interactive learning experience, which is very, very exciting. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much a bit about me and my role at Sky.
And it just goes to show that obviously, being in an organisation, being competent and progressing through different roles can lead you into a whole range of different interesting areas as that company grows. So that's really inspiring. So tell us a little bit about the Sky Skills Studio story. Kind of where did it come from to launch?
Yeah, so it was in the making for about 2 years, and it was a response to senior management about wanting to bring young people into the workplace. We kind of looked at different options, and we could have quite easily developed a program that we could have gone into the schools and worked in the classroom and with teachers and students. But it was really about kind of letting them come behind the scenes and also taking our reach beyond the screen, and to really inspire them in a way that hadn't been done before. So that was really kind of where it originated from. We had a really large space within Sky Studios, which is our newest broadcasting facility. So it's a sustainable broadcasting facility in Europe, and it was in the completion of that building that really kind of got us thinking about, well, we've got this great facility, how can we really bring the young people into it? So we started off with an idea, a concept, and then took it to design, and kind of then it sort of over the year just turned into this great big project, and then it took sort of the best part of 9 months to build and technically put the equipment together, and we launched in September 2012. So we're pretty much a year in, and it's been a very, very successful year. We've had over 12,000 students come through our doors in that first year.
Wow. And I do like the fact that it just kind of went from idea to concept to very, very big quite
Yeah.
soon. And what sort of targets did you kind of set yourself? Because obviously you're reflecting on your kind of first year's progress, and 12,000 seems like um, 12,000 seems like a big target. Was that kind of where you were aiming at?
Yeah, I mean, I think right at the beginning we kind of looked at what the class sizes were, and we were also looking at how we could work with groups outside, so the non-government organisations. So throughout the holidays we have youth groups coming through, we have home education groups coming through. So setting 12,000 and kind of also considering we've got the holiday period, we're kind of quite confident we could actually achieve that. So it originally was quite an ambitious target, but I think we did quite well to achieve it by working with so many different types of groups. I believe Scouts and Brownies were also part of the groups that attended as well.
Oh, fantastic. So it's not just tackling the kind of school agenda, it's very much that taking the behind the scenes motto, taking the inspirational angle and reaching out to everybody.
So, I mean, the overarching objective of this experience is to kind of really build key life skills in young people, and I think that's applicable to young people at school, but also, you know, if you're part of an organisation, be it a sports organisation, be it you know, part of the Scouts and Brownies, you know, teamwork, communication, they're all vital skills that any young person needs to have in their back pocket.
Fantastic. Well, let's swap over presenters. So we'll share your screen with the audience.
Okay. So you just give me a minute and I'll just get... Okay, so I'll just go down the screens because we've already gone through those. So just to also
Sorry,
make
I can't
a point
quite see that. Hold on. There you go. Right, I'm good.
Okay. So I've given you the overview, and just in terms of kind of contextualize where SkySkillsStudio itself sits within the business. So it's part of the bigger picture, and that's part of the area of the business that looks at how we play our part in the communities in which we all live and work, and how we can inspire action. So there are four ways in which we think we can have that biggest impact. So that's protecting the environment, improving life through sport, inspiring and enabling creativity, and also raising aspirations of young people in schools. So SkySkillsStudio sits within that. So it is designed for ages 8 to 18. We have 2 groups a day, and we can cater for up to 32 in each of those sessions. So the groups are, it's Monday to Friday, and like I already mentioned, we are open throughout the holiday period as well. And also, as I sort of also said, it's a learning experience. So it's inspiring young people through a learning experience that links into the national curriculum and also builds those key life skills. And we believe that those 5 key life skills are creativity, communication, problem solving, self-management, and teamwork. And that they can experience in the classroom. When they come here, you know, there'll be different touch points within the experience that they can use these skills, and then also take them back into the classroom and use them beyond. And making it relevant for the curriculum. So we looked at different ways in which we could do this, and what we came down to was 5 core subjects: English, Maths, Science, Citizenship, PHC as it's also known, and PE. And across these there are 16 topics that a teacher can select from. So as an example, if they select Science as their subject, they can choose natural disasters, species as the topic. Or if it's PE, they could do competition in places or participation in sport, which looks like at the impacts of obesity and getting young people interested in sport. So the idea is the teacher will use our website, which I'll take you through in just a little while, and that's their booking platform, but it's also a resource platform for them to understand how it links to the national curriculum, because we've provided a curriculum matrix on there, and we've also provided risk assessments, we've provided parental consent forms. So we've tried to make it very easy for any teacher that's looking to book a trip. All those tick boxes that you need to do as a teacher, we've supplied that information to you. So ahead of your visit, once you've made your booking, you'll receive a welcome pack. The welcome pack has an hour's lesson plan in it, and we highly recommend that our teachers do those lesson plans, because it's a great way to get them really kind of discussing the topic, getting them to research it, and really get to understand what they're also going to be doing once they arrive at Sky for their trip. So the teacher would need to divide the class into 4 groups. The 4 groups represent the 4 studios we have at Sky. And in those teams, the students take on roles as producers, directors, reporters, script writers. And the idea is they come up with the bones of the script based around the chosen topic. Now, each of the groups will interlink with each other. So group 1 will introduce the report. So that's in the newsroom. Group 2 will be out on location. So that might be a news reporter standing outside a zoo. It could be, they're outside a hospital, depending on which topic they select. We provided backdrops according to that. And then Studio 3, which is the 3rd group, will be interviewing someone as an eyewitness, based again around the topic. And then we're back in Studio 4, which we're doing expert commentary with a specialist. It could be somebody who's kind of a scientist, or has researched or owns a business and wants to give their view on the particular topic. So the students will have to work within that group, and straight away those key life skills are beginning there, because they're having to teamwork, they're using teamwork, they're having to communicate with each other. They might have to problem solve with each other, because they might have to think about actually how much script, right, how much of the footage have we got, how much words do we actually need to kind of put together, does our section of the report make any sense to section 3? So they're already starting to use those, and again, being creative. How can they come up with a script that's really interesting, that will really captivate their audience? So the actual journey begins in the classroom. And we do highly recommend, like I said, that the teachers do that lesson plan, because when they do arrive at Sky for the actual, creating of that report using the technical equipment, they'll get so much more out of the experience and really maximise their time here. So once they do arrive, we take them on a guided tour around our building. We take them through to Sky Studios. Now, the concept of that building is make, shape and share. Making happening on the ground floor with all our studios, in the middle floor, which is our shaping, edit and audio, and then on our top floor, the sharing, platform control. So they'll get to go on a guided tour of all these areas, step into a real studio, get to go onto the transmission areas. So they'll have a 25-minute tour. And then as one big group, they'll arrive back onto the first floor of that building, and then they'll go onto their very own studios, which they will then spend the remaining part of their time, where they'll get to finish off their scripts if they haven't done so, shoot and edit and create their very own TV report using the technology. At the end of their session, we share that report with them in a big screen in the central area, and then they also get to take their report home the very same day on a USB wristband, so they can go home and share it with mum, dad, brothers, sisters and friends. But what we also do is provide a secure web link to the teacher, so then you can then go ahead and host that onto your school website, and then also share that in assembly with the wider school community. So that's how the experience actually works from end to end. And what we have done is looked at actually what's going to happen next once the students leave. What's the next steps? So year 2 is really kind of looking at that, but we already know from our monitoring and evaluation that we did in the first year that teachers have used media as a form of bringing to life many topics that they didn't think students would be particularly inspired by. So science, as an example, teachers have sort of said, well, okay, we're talking about volcanoes. How can I use a very interactive way? And they've fed back through our monitoring evaluation that the form of media for young people is a very powerful tool. So teachers are now using that to kind of really get students thinking about and kind of getting them to interested and getting facts and figures resonate with them in a much more creative way. Teachers have also reported back to say that particular students have worked in a very different way to what they do in the classroom, and subsequently have changed their teaching style with those particular students because they think, well, actually this is a great way to get more out of them. We've also worked with different types of groups, so I think the great thing about SkySkillsStudios is that we're working with every slice of life. We've had our public schools, we've had our inner state schools, we've worked with special needs students, and I think the experience itself has been able to connect with so many different abilities. We had an autistic boy in the first year whose teacher actually made him a camera operator, assistant camera operator. And one of our team leaders decided, actually, no, I'm going to make him an assistant reporter, put him in front of the camera. Every time the boy read his words and got them right, his whole group cheered him. And the teacher said, it's just great the way you've been able to bring him out and be able to give him that confidence to speak up amongst his peers, but also on camera. We've also had another story of a Year 5 boy who was selective mute. He didn't speak at all in Year 4, but was starting to say a few words in Year 5. At the end of the experience, when he came to Sky, he was telling us everything. He was telling us what he was doing. He was telling the leaders what they needed to do next. We couldn't keep him quiet. So I think it's amazing the impacts that the experience had. It's definitely exceeded our expectations, and I think definitely the responses that we have been very, very positive. So talking about kind of how we can get how as a teacher you can get involved. So if I could take you through to the website. So if I just show you the website. So this is, as I mentioned, is the place that as a teacher you need to register and also find out how the trip works in terms of its educational benefits, and also we've provided some case studies on there so you can sort of hear from other teachers who have already been at the trip. So you would need to register, just as you can see on the top corner. On the right, you have a login or register button, and you just go through there. You would just fill out the details. You would find your school, your email address. Once you've put your email address, you can find your school. And we normally recommend that if you're doing that, to put in your postcode, and also remember to put a space in the postcode as well. And once you've registered on there, you will receive a link that will take you through to the website again, which will then take you to the page where you can actually make a booking. We've provided a calendar for you to select dates as to when you want to book. In the first year, we were almost like the victim of our own success. We obviously in our first year weren't sure what the appetite was going to be like and what the take-up for teachers was going to be. So we opened the whole year, and within 8 weeks the academic year was full from launch. So that was a very interesting lesson for us. So for Year 2 we've kind of drip-fed our bookings. So currently we are open till April, but we are now fully booked. But we will be releasing new dates for the summer term in November for teachers to register now and then go in and book for those dates in the summer. So that really is how you would actually go about making a booking. And we have supplied also a telephone number on the front, so that if you are stuck in any way once trying to register, we have got dedicated support that can take you through to help you. So just taking you through to the SkillsStudios pages, if I just go through to plan your visit, this is where you would have a look. And this is where you can actually have a look at the different topics that are available. And just to mention that in terms of topics, we found probably from the year 6 upwards, social networking has been by far the most popular topic selected. Social networking looks at the impacts of cyberbullying, and I think many schools have found this a great way to bring home that message to young people, because we are in a cyber generation. Everything is done, via some web format of some sort, be it sort of an iPhone, be it an iPad, or be it, the laptops. It is the way forward. So how do we really ensure that young people are using it in a very responsible way? The social networking topic is a great way of doing that and getting that message across. The fact that the students are writing those scripts and sometimes taking on the roles as victims of that kind of really does help. And some feedback we had from students who sort of have said that, I really didn't think about it in this way.
It's particularly interesting, obviously, just to butt in there. One of our previous webinars was on cyberbullying, and the work done by the CyberSmile Foundation to try and educate young people and adults around the challenges in this area. And it was immensely popular. And it's just interesting to hear you confirm that effectively it's also young people, it's top of their agenda.
Absolutely, it definitely is. So, I think, again, this is a great tool. So from an educational perspective, teaching young people, not about just, other things, but kind of like preparing them, and putting them, giving them that sense of responsibility of using the internet. And also, you can actually go down, through there, and it does talk about kind of how we can, we've provided sort of download lesson plans for teachers to have a look through, and talks, and the website also explains how, which I've already mentioned, how each of the groups work in terms of the studios themselves. And as you can see from the website, the images there actually are exactly what our studios look like. So we've used broadcast quality cameras, which we've kind of condensed them down to kind of one easy to use box, such as on the side, for the students to use. So we've got a recording mic and widen type button. Students are operating all the kit themselves. We've got a giant, almost like a giant iPad, which is our editing table, which I can show you on the screen there, which is where the editor and the producers work, and it's intuitive for every age group. So it's touchscreen, it's bespoke software specially designed for this experience. We've got the green screens again, where we use a chroma key to project the images so that the students can be transformed either into the newsroom or, as mentioned, in a outside a zoo, outside a hospital. So on. So it's really quite something, and we also often get many visitors come through as adults, often asking, well, can we come and have a go, which is great. So again, sort of mentioning the technology and the backdrops. So that's probably the best way to kind of find more information out about the actual trip and actually how the experience works, is going through to our website, which is www.sky.com/skills, and that's where you would also need to, as mentioned before, register for the trip.
Fantastic, Nishy. That's absolutely brilliant and very inspirational. I've had a few questions come in, so if you don't mind answering some of those.
Yeah.
So the first question that's come through is around, obviously this SkySkillsStudios program is currently focused on Hounslow in West London. On average, how far are your schools or groups travelling to get to you? I presume they're not coming quite down from Inverness, but perhaps they're coming from further afield than I think.
You're absolutely right, they are. So just to firstly say, it's open to every school in the country. So we think on average a school will travel up to 2 hours to come to a school trip, but we have taken bookings from Scotland, north of England, Wales, south of England. Last Easter, or this Easter should I say, we also had a school which was a twin school from Doha that came in through the Easter holidays for the trip. So the reality is, if a school can organise a trip, I mean, be it that if they are coming from Scotland, they might make this as part of a wider trip, they are welcome to book in.
Fantastic. And then another question was related to the original, the kind of core skills that you were looking to learn, which was around communication and problem solving, etc. And was that something that you kind of created yourselves, or was that you talking to teachers? Was it a kind of co-creation exercise to kind of create that as a foundation block?
Yeah, so it's something that Sky actually wanted to do as part of the program, so it's kind of raising those aspirations in a way that we could define it as also. So we did work with educational specialists to look at what teachers would want out of such an experience. What would those core skills be? So there was a lot of research and focus groups done with the educational specialist company and teachers as well, and as a result these were the 5 skills that came out. And we think through the roles that students will be taking on and the type of activity in experience that they'll be doing, that would actually would be relevant and also be something that they could actually utilise as well. So having to work in a team, obviously you're in your group and you're actually having to work together to come up with a script, also work as a production team when you're in your own studio, being creative, being part of TV. You could be creative in your skill, in your writing. You could be creative in front of the camera. Self-manager, having the confidence to do it, taking on a role as a producer, showing leadership skills. That's having that self-management to be able to do it. Problem solving, technical equipment sometimes can be problematic. How do you get around that? How do you work out how much time and footage and script writing do you need to, work around? Communication, a vital part of everything everybody does on a daily basis. So I think these 5 skills really encapsulate what we were trying to do in the experience, and that's kind of where they came out, from really.
That's fantastic, and it's very, very topical at the moment. There was a recent article by the headmaster of Eton in the press, and he asked the question, in what role or what job do you spend 2 hours in complete silence, working on your own with no interaction from others, and then measured by your results? And he was making a very interesting point about the role that the examinations play in the way that we judge and evaluate children's success, whereas the program that you've created or helped create very much shows the skills that they will need in a modern working life. So yes,
absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Nishy. So that was a phenomenally great introduction to the SkySkillsStudios program. So I'm sure we'll have other questions come in by Twitter, and as I said, the session will be made available later. We have another webinar next week, so Thursday at 4 o'clock. Next week we have Claire Young, who is an entrepreneur, visionary, speaker, and apprenticed finalist. So she will be talking about aspiration and raising aspiration and achievement, particularly within girls. So please tune in to her next week, and big thank you for Nishy for presenting SkySkillsStudios this week.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all, and we'll end the session now.